Welcome to this explainer. Right out of the gate, we're looking at a place that is just shrouded in absolute mystery. Nestled deep in the Bay of Bengal, part of the Andaman archipelago, there's this densely forested speck of land that completely defies the highly connected, mapped-out world we live in today. We are exploring what is, quite literally, the last forbidden frontier of North Sentinel Island.
There is an island where visitors almost never return. Take a moment to just let that sink in. Think about the sheer gravity of that statement in our modern age of global travel, satellite mapping, and instant communication. It's incredibly rare to find a place on this planet where the boundary is absolute. And the consequences of crossing it? Well, they're severe. This isn't folklore, guys. It is a profound and very real danger that forms the core of our topic today. For decades, those who've ignored the warnings and approached these pristine beaches have met with a swift, unmistakable message that outsiders are simply not meant to be there.
Part 1. The Uncontacted Tribe, Revealing North Sentinel Island. Okay, let's dive into this. Because this isn't just an empty rock in the ocean. It is the territory of a living community.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that an uncontacted tribe doesn't necessarily mean they're blissfully unaware that an outside world exists. It means they have completely rejected contact with it for centuries. The Sentinelese represent one of the absolute last groups of this kind anywhere on Earth. Anthropologists actually estimate their ancestors arrived in the region tens of thousands of years ago, and for the vast majority of that time, they've lived entirely on their own terms. In an era where you can reach almost anyone on the planet with just a tap on a screen, where globalization has touched the highest mountains and the deepest valleys, the Sentinelese have maintained an unbroken, intentional chain of profound isolation. They've seen ships pass in the distance, they've likely seen airplanes high above, but their response has been a consistent, unified desire to just be left completely alone. They're totally self-sufficient, surviving entirely on what the island's forest and the surrounding shallow waters provide, untouched by the agricultural and industrial revolutions that reshaped the rest of human history.
And this deep isolation is absolutely not an accident. They're actively defending the island from intruders. For hundreds of years, their boundary hasn't just been geographical. It's been enforced through their own active physical defense against anyone who tries to step foot on their land. We aren't just talking about verbal warnings here. We're talking about a community that mobilizes immediately the second a boat enters their waters. There are well-documented instances where well-meaning observers or even accidental trespassers have been met with a barrage of arrows right there on the beach. Perhaps the most vivid example of this fierce independence came in the aftermath of the devastating 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami. When a Coast Guard helicopter flew low over North Sentinel Island just to check for survivors, a Sentinelese man emerged from the dense jungle canopy, aimed his bow at the sky, and fired an arrow directly at the modern aircraft. They've made it abundantly clear through their actions that outsiders are not welcome. They're protecting their homeland with everything they have to ensure their centuries-old way of life remains entirely undisturbed.
Part 2. Defending the Frontier, the Modern Shield. Let's move to and see how this builds, because it's not just the Sentinelese who are enforcing this boundary anymore.
And this brilliantly illustrates the remarkably unique, dual-layered shield that protects this island. On the legal side, the Indian government has enacted a strict ban. They've established a multi-mile exclusion zone around the island, making it a severe criminal offense to visit or even approach. This legal perimeter relies on heavy naval patrols to honor and enforce the tribe's clear desire for isolation, ensuring curious tourists, poachers, and unauthorized explorers are intercepted long before they can even get close. But biologically, there's an even stricter law at play. Because the Sentinelese have been isolated for so long, they simply haven't developed immunities to common modern illnesses. A passing cold, the flu, or measles, things the rest of us brush off with a few days of rest, could be incredibly deadly to their entire population. Historically, when isolated tribes have been suddenly exposed to the broader world, the biological consequences have been catastrophic, sometimes wiping out entire communities in a matter of weeks. So the outside world respects their wishes not just legally, but as a rigid matter of biological preservation and basic human survival.
So we're looking at an intense, multi-layered defense mechanism keeping North Sentinel Island untouched. First, you have the tribe's own unwavering desire to remain separated from the rest of humanity. Second, their active physical defense against any intruders who dare to approach the shoreline. Third, the Indian government stepping in, establishing exclusion zones, and making all visits totally illegal. And fourth, the invisible but terrifying scientific threat of deadly outside diseases acting as the ultimate deterrent. It's a fascinating paradox, really. The modern world is utilizing its vast legal power and scientific understanding to actively enforce and protect an ancient, profound isolation. Both the inhabitants on the inside and the legal and scientific communities on the outside are actively maintaining this absolute boundary.
Part 3.
Boundaries of modernity, the untouched world. I actually want to slow down for a second here and just ask you to reflect on what this extreme isolation really means in the context of our highly connected world.
So the crucial point is that North Sentinel Island remains one of the very few places on Earth where modern civilization has never truly arrived. It's a stark, awe-inspiring reality. Just think about what a geographical location entirely devoid of our modern footprint actually looks like. There's no concrete, there are no synthetic plastics washing up that they themselves produced. There's no internet, no electricity grid, no combustion engines whatsoever. It is a living time capsule, preserving a hunter-gatherer way of life that has vanished almost everywhere else on the globe. In our daily lives, we're constantly bombarded by information, tied to our devices and connected to global supply chains for everything we eat, wear, and use. But the Sentinelese, they offer a mirror to our modern condition, showing us a vastly different way to exist on this planet, one deeply tethered to the rhythms of nature, fiercely independent, and completely divorced from the modern narrative of endless global expansion. It stands as a profound monument to human resilience and the enduring power of boundaries.
Knowing everything we've just covered in this explainer, the tribe's fierce desire for privacy, their centuries of active defense, the intense legal bans, and the catastrophic biological risks to their very survival, would you ever visit this island if you had the chance?